Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome back to another Super Eagle 1 classic unboxing video. Today we shall be unboxing Fleet Commander Nimitz, the World War II Pacific Ocean solitaire strategy game by DVG. Another DVG game to unbox today. And once more in another nice thick box with some good length and width, which gives us promise for a nice big meaty game to get our hands on. Without further ado, let's have a look at the underside, which gives us a very little teaser of what to expect about Chester Nimitz, Fleet Commander Nimitz, and the fact that this is a solitaire game, along with a components list. But I won't linger on that too long because spoilers. Alright, let us begin to undo the box. Excellent. There it is on all sides. And I'll pop that to the side. Having a look at the box itself, we can see that along the side are the names of people who pre-ordered the game. I'll turn it so if you see your name you can call out in the comments. And the final side. So once more, another deep box to dive into, like so. At the top we can see the rules manual with a lovely picture of Chester Nimitz and straight away a contents, which is so helpful. I really think they should do more of this on the front cover because it makes it so much easier. Inside we have a photocopy sheet for recording your victories, and just like Field Commander Napoleon, also in this series, it has an introduction to solitaire war games and the history behind it. Here is a component breakdown, and you'll see lots of beautiful illustrations of the game pieces with lovely labels telling you what they do, which is so helpful in my opinion. We can see a breakdown of all the different numbers, the anti-aircraft value, the surface attack value, and the depth charge value for submarines. We've got Japanese ships and American ships, classified by the different letters here. CV for fleet carrier, CVL for a light carrier, escort carriers, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, submarines, and transport ships, along with aircraft, infantry, marines, and other units. Also, it does include here, there are Australian units as well on the Allied side, which is a nice addition, an early observation. I'll go through all the pages so you can enjoy the manual. And the breakdown of turn order from American movement to scouting, the Japanese movement and their tables, which we'll see in detail on the map. battle turn sequence, and of course we're all very used to it in this series, the battle plans which bring them to life. And every single battle plan, once more, has a breakdown which is oh so helpful at clarifying how things work, because they are small counters, and having it in the manual does really resolve any issues you have, especially for your first time play. You can dig into that manual and get it to help. Works very nicely as a glossary. Talking about who hits first, bomb runs, depth charges, when do the infantry attack, airfields, and of course supply, and ending the turn with victory checks. And whether or not we achieved a historical victory. And here is a lovely extended example of play to determine how the game plays, and you can read and follow with the game pieces to see how it resolves. And on the back cover, a list of all of DPG's independent games. All in all, an impressive manual. Here's my photocopied sheet, which I've used for my playthrough. I've only played in full the first campaign. The first two campaigns, sorry. This one's my 1943 one, which ended in a success as I was able to break through the Japanese. Not after some trying times, I will add. And I've got a couple of these for future gameplay. Each campaign comes with a setup, which is single-sided and has this kind of brown papery feel. Gives it atmosphere. It includes Japanese setup, their naval forces, their infantry, and their land-based aircraft, as well as their carrier groups for this year. Obviously changing as the war dwindles them down, depending on the scenario. And of course the same for the United States, including the starting supply points and reinforcement points. And here is our naval forces, the infantry, and the land-based aircraft. At the bottom we can see the objectives we need to take and hold, and at completion of the end of the year, the turns, the number of objectives we need to achieve, either a great victory to a sacking from US High Command. And you can see the setup for 1943. (1944) and finally the end of the war, 1945. Okay, next up we have this very pretty battle board, which is what you will get in the standard box. It's a glossy paper, which has been, feels like glossy card paper. That I think is quite sturdy. But we'll have a better look, because with my copy, I am very fortunate to have gotten the mounted version, which looks like this. showing all the different regions of battle, be it the ocean, the coastal areas, the islands themselves that you'll be fighting over, the turns, the order of combat setting up, and battle plans, of course, the quantity of which determines how these battles resolve them. And of course on here we've got the airfields, got foxholes for infantry, and the beaches where troops will be landing. Very cool. And now our last component in the game box is the largest one, which I will take out now. Just going to adjust my camera a little bit so we can get the most out of this. This is the game's strategy campaign map. As you can see, it folds from a small piece into a very large piece. So, it's quite the piece, isn't it? Where shall we begin? Well, let's begin over here. Over here we can see the sequence of play, which will tell us in what turn order things happen, and you can take actions. We have the Japanese orders, so you'll roll your D10, modified probably by supplies. I roll a 10 naturally, which will lead to a sortie by the Japanese Navy and their forces, and that will move 3 ships, 1 infantry, and up to 2 aircraft to a location. And it will be the closest objective with the US present. Also here we've got return to port, so damaged US ships will have to go into these slots and work their way back into circulation. Up here we can see the US supply points, where the west coast is as well, and Alaska up here, and of course the US reinforcements that are available for the scenario. Along the top we can see the Japanese resupply and where we can put our submarine raiders. This will be rolled on every turn to see what new ships, infantry and land-based aircraft the Japanese will pull into the Pacific Theatre. And we'll be able to disperse them from the Japanese reinforcements pool here in East Asia and Japan. Here is the Japan invasion box that will be used in the 1945 scenario, where we can expend forces into the box to achieve a successful invasion of Japan. All the way down the bottom we have months of the year in twos to show when operations are taking place in what turn. You can see the map is nicely marked. I'm aware that the Australian flag indicates that these are locations where Australian forces may help support US operations. We could see famous locations such as Japanese islands of Okinawa, Iwo Jima, Philippines, famously retaken. Move across Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands, Midway Island up here, and of course Hawaii, US Naval Base at Pearl Harbor there. And that is the look at the game board. Very large and very impressive. But there is more. Hold your horses. Where are the counters? Well, being me, I have put them all in this beautiful storage solution, which I'll zoom out so you can see. Like so. There are a lot of counters, and a lot of counters individual only to the scenario. For example, I'll take this tray here. This one contains, for the scenario, 1942, and it contains the individual cruisers of San Francisco and Astoria with their marked values, their free tricolour to represent their nationality as American, and their reduced side here. Likewise, we have the Royal Australian Air Force Bomb Group 1 with their naval attack and their ground attack. And of course, their reduced side here. Australia marked by the Union Jack on with the stars. And finally, the 2nd US Marines, very powerful unit in the game. Once more, there's a reduced and notable for the 1942 marker in the corner. Same can be said for the Japanese forces that will be used. They've got their land-based aircraft, Takao Kotohai, 51st Infantry, and their reduced side, and of course cruisers such as the Aoba and Kinugasa with their anti-aircraft, surface attack, and submarine warfare modifiers. Each scenario has, of course, various battle plans, such as screening force. You can have your planes conduct a barrel roll to prevent hits on them. We have counters for transport for infantry to the shore for both sides, airbase strength and objective markers, as well as very handy discs to mark units which have already moved in the campaign. Because as you can see, for each scenario I will be taking 2 trays, and that is a lot of individual units to be moving around at once. So there it is. A game of high production value with a lot of counters, a massive beautiful campaign board with D10 rolling. I naturally just score 10s endlessly. plenty of action on the battle board and the campaign board, which really brings this game to life. Both are immaculately designed and are enjoyable to watch and play. Perhaps I will do an example of play on this channel, but be sure to give me a like, comment and subscribe if you'd like to see more. This has been Super Eagle 1. Thank you for joining me.